Bill Webb is going to the Bush Plain Heritage Museum in Sault Ste. Marie. That's not a steal. You know, it's the being a wall. All right. Okay. Just make sure the lads can hear us. Kevin, can you hear us? Ed can hear us. Kevin can hear us. Kevin's got pictures he submitted. Okay. We have to remember to. Well. All right. All right. You're
all right. We're gonna start, gentlemen. 7 o'clock.
Attention on deck.
Welcome to our August meeting. Our last of our clandestine summer meetings here at Fanshawe. Wink, wink. We never were. We're back at the library starting in September. We've got a book for regular nights, so we're good for that. So first off, welcome to our monthly meeting. We're not going to have a guest presenter. Tonight's topic after the show and tell will be on judging. Most of our meeting today is, we have another meeting right before the show, but this is our meeting where we're going to start talking about that. But one of the things we're looking at is judging. We're going to need judges, and by looking at the efficacy of some shows we've been to in the last year, the more judges, the better. And you know, a comment we hear a lot from people is, if you really want to go to a show and enjoy your experience, right, go volunteer to be a judge. And so we're going to be needing some. We've already had some guys from other clubs tell us they'll come in and judge, but we never have enough. We'd like to get it done in a reasonable hour. We're going to be talking about Nats. Carrie's here, who was at Nats. We will not have words from our club liaison from National because we don't have one right now. Real quick, if anyone's interested in being a IPMS Canada club liaison, let us know. We have an email to send it to. London area will be a popular choice. So we're going to talk about judging and more about our show prep. But first things first, we have, I think, some new members here, if we're not mistaken. You're new. What's your name, sir?
Will.
Will. Welcome, Will. Tell us about yourself. What do you model? What are you doing? Anyone? You sir? You're new. Your name?
Hamburger. And I've only just moved to Ontario. Here, a little over a year ago. And did a little bit of everything. You know, I focused mainly in my younger years on science fiction, but I built everything possibly wanted. So I, you know, looked at getting into playing both focusing on specific details. But with science fiction, what do you point to say all that? Because it's open, you know.
Well, we've heard that before, hey guys? Yeah. No, it's not. Well, great. Well, welcome, gentlemen. Welcome to your first meeting. I hope you fit comfortably and you'd like to wear it a little longer. Welcome to our club. We are not a airplane, car, ship kind of club. This is, you know, former club liaison from NAT. I've mentioned how so diverse in this club, so really great. We have a little bit of everything all the time, and welcome. You're enriching the club with what you've got in your club. Well, great. So
What are you looking at me for?
no, well, because I miss you, because I couldn't remember your name. I was like, is it Jim, Gary,
Yeah.
John,
Corey.
FNG, something like
Wally.
that. No treasure tonight, so we won't have our we won't have a 50-50 draw. And I'll just jump right to Bill's here with our show president. There's some updates on the show president side. Go ahead.
The enter here was kind of nervous. Going into it, and a little late up in, and the table. So I just kept rolling emails up night. back, we were at, that one fella actually at the table, instead of asking for money back, that put it in sponsor. Last
I think he hasn't yet. So
Yeah.
He's got the,
So anyway, put in one. Something in the
oh, yeah, he sent them everything.
and I had another fella. That donate. Well, anyway, long story short. That
I'm just double checking.
anyway, full. Right now, 7. We have 8. Club members at the top that I want to hear. They didn't get it. Yeah.
78. We have room for 78
Still
tables.
have 8 left. Either want to go get one. Yeah. Yeah. We may need them. If
Yeah,
they need them for-
we spent a lot of time with the American groups and all the, like, Nats was 3,079, as Stuart said on the podcast. I mean, the last one pre-COVID was Vegas, that was 2,000, and they were freaking out. We're seeing about a 30% increase on a lot of these little shows. And buddy in Missouri said, you know, they used to have 45 hits, they had 180 show up. They weren't prepared for that. So
it's modeling.
the only problem we're having is sponsorship. So first thing is, if you want to sponsor a category, let me know. Post it on our Facebook page. Reach out to me here at the meeting whenever. It's $50 per category. Sponsorships, unlike raffle or unlike vendor tables, have not been going well. Been going okay because it created a corporate sponsorship, and we got some businesses not involved in the hobby whatsoever supporting us. So I mean, we made $1,000 in one day from a couple sponsorships. So if anyone's got a company that's interested in doing a corporate sponsorship, I've reached out to like the fire service industry, fire alarm industry to see, and haven't got anything positive back. I don't care. I have no shame. I'm married, have kids, but we've gotten about, you know, we've only had about 15 sponsors, but we've made a couple of grand in sponsors already. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so what we're looking for is if you guys want to do a sponsor category, let me know. Also, thank you. Peter set us up for some more kits for the raffle table. If you've got some old kits, stuff you'd like to donate, you know, the raffle goes to support the club. If you've got kits you'd like, bring them to the September meeting or contact me. I'm pretty much in this building starting next week until the show, which, by the way, we finally confirmed will be here at Fanshawe. So, yeah. So we have a 15,000 square foot gym that we'll be able to use. So that's stressful. I don't know if the next show will be at Fanshawe because I don't like waiting 30 days before. So bit of a tight timeline, but for this show, at least we have a real big spot to present, which is going to be nice. So sponsorships, just to support Bill with the tables. If you've got any interest in any of that, reach out, let me know. Or if you've got firms, like we got a funeral company. Yeah. 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 I can show you later, Cam. Yeah, it's open. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Peter just sponsored, thank you, Cam. Peter just sponsored Best Anime. So IPMS Canada today, finally. Thanks, Gary. IPMS sponsored Best Ships. They wanted, it's one of the last best categories left. But we've still got, like, we have 93 3 categories in total, I think, this year. It's all on the website, and I know, Aaron, it seems like a lot, but it pretty much falls in line with what everyone else is doing. So, anyway, that's that for me. Bill, anything else?
Um, Yeah, yeah. They haven't said anything. I'm gonna follow up again and see where they're at. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna tell them we've got, I'm gonna send an email back saying we've only got 8 people.
Yeah.
And if you want them, they're yours.
I could send my wife after them. She was pretty mean to them at Heritage Con. My wife muscled them. You want me to send my wife?
Yeah.
She's French and she has a knife.
Oh.
Yeah.
You sleep with one eye open, right?
1 foot on the floor.
Adam's gonna do a rough idea of what pattern.
Yeah, I'm gonna have this signed ready for the next meeting.
Well, I'm not gonna be putting them out, I'm doing the layout.
No, I'll have them ready, so have set up whatever it is.
Well, we will have access on the Friday. Like, that's part of, yeah, because they're like, it's $400 for Friday. I'm like, excuse me?
One thing I do wanna ask about, yeah,
Yeah, I emailed you Wi-Fi.
right,
Oh, yeah, the rise.
I talked to, I. Talk to me. So,
Alan?
yeah,
He's the one who told me.
yeah, I didn't know who he talked. So anyway, I'll.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Okay. We do have access on the Friday night, so for those who, and again, right, we'll be hitting you up, what volunteers, right? We need guys to help out with the shirts, with the spots and setups and stuff.
I can't.
But even if we had to do it in the morning of, before we open, it won't take long.
Otherwise.
Yeah.
It's just easy. Like,
Right.
Is there cash for room in the hall, like,
there might be some in the bottom area, but not really.
all worried about that?
Yeah.
They have those extra vendors. Up.
That's part of the.
Yeah. So.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is there gonna be a display only?
We haven't really advertised it. Right, we'd rather not. Based on what we're gonna get. We're bound to have a few.
There's no reason. I mean, that would, as far as I'm concerned, you see that, other stuff.
But it's different. I wonder if that's
Our biggest challenge is we have to pay for tables and they need to know by August 23rd. So we won't, really have too much for spares. That's one of the reasons why. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, no, we have chairs included also. Yeah, it's tables and chairs. But that's Stuart brainwork. That's okay. So if you want a vendor table, there's only 8 left. Talk to Bill. Sponsorships, come see me. If you want to sponsor a category, we talk about it. Email me. If you've got anything that you want to donate for the raffle table, it's been a bit lean. Peter tonight doubled the volume of stuff for the raffle table I've received. I just got a package from Elm Hobbies. I've got a couple more coming, but so far it's been a lot of crickets out there. Yeah, just either let me know, we can make arrangements, or September meeting, bring them, or even, you know, the day of, if we have to, of the show, bring those along. That's our show news for now, I think. So for sponsorships, I opened it up for, like, basically it's 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. And we've just broken down, right? A lot of what a corporate sponsorship does is part of the money goes to support the show for stationery, posters, things like that, right? Whatever we're doing. The other half, they end up getting their name on sponsorships. For example, our treasurer, what's the name of the funeral home? Dignity, right? Yeah. Needham Funeral. Yeah, Needham gave us a $500 sponsorship, or even better yet, there's a towing company that gave us $500. So I gave them they got 4 car categories, right? Just to kind of fit. Yeah. Yeah. So I think I gave the funeral home like a smattering, a little bit of everything, like a diorama and space and cars. So a little. Yeah, yeah. So, so for corporate, that's usually what it is. So we'll work something out. And then they're mentioned, they're advertised, and we'll give a plaque to all our corporate sponsors after the show, as a thank you for your support.
One of the most important things, one of the skillmomshow.ca.
Yeah.
Check it out. You have our list of sponsors already.
I didn't get
Oh, you can hit them up again. Hit them up now. We'll take money up until the day of.
I saw that because I got like.
And I thought, why send it to me?
I knew what you were doing. I set up a rule.
So we got it all set up. So we're looking good. Everyone was a little nervous after the break, but like you talked to the guys at Torcan, they were basically, you know, everyone was on Pepto-Bismol before the show. Heritage Con, everyone this year is a little bit worried. Even the Nats guys, they were really concerned about stuff. And then everyone's been having good shows, so it worked out well, which is good. So enough about the show for tonight. You got your info. We're going to do our show and tell, and then from there, we're going to talk about judging. We're going to have a primer about judging. We were hoping Duncan was coming, but Kerry was at San Marcos, so we'll have Kerry give his man on the scene rundown of all the fun, wonderment, and as Jimmy Fallon says, the controversy that occurred there that's been firing up the internet a bit. So we'll go into that. All right. So shall we do table?
This is always a challenge to do this. Because I take photos about 5 minutes before, and it's always a challenge to do. Of course, I don't do it. It doesn't make sense.
Just one thing, because I'm that guy who follows that. Is there any wording in the contract college that gives them the ability to overturn? State sports title?
That's standard. Because the college is all about academia, not events. Yeah.
So what's the
That is, yeah. Now,
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. So what the-
I've already had one heart attack. I don't need.
That's fair.
Maybe is, I give up.
Yeah. That's a legitimate-
The show will be in 83 garages around the city. Yeah.
Richard won't mind if we.
Yeah. All right. You want to start with, let's start with Ron. Okay, there we go.
Okay,
Show and tell.
we're gonna start. So I have a couple of books here, and some other goodies. So this one is from Chris Stryber, Mr. Lufram, 72. He's a YouTuber and a hell of a nice guy. Did he drop things over? Jesus Christ. We can't take Frank anywhere. Anyway, this is on super detailing the F-14 Tomcat, but he's also got a couple of other aircraft in there. This, if you do any sort of weathering, it is a fabulous, fabulous resource. It's available now on his website and wherever fine hobby books are sold. Brief shameless plug, we're going to have him on the podcast next time. Just well worth having a look at. Anthony's already pre-ordered his copy. Absolutely beautiful book.
Pre-order.
No, I'm Betty.
Yeah. Pre-order, I think.
Yeah, Hobby Search Japan has it. His pre-orders, I think, were gone. I know. No, yeah. He's going to be doing more, but an excellent resource. Well worth having a quick glance through. He's got some locally too, but they're around different places. You'll see them around. Yeah. Anyway, this one here, Jeff recommended this to me. He picked it. Now, give me the story here. You picked this up at an estate sale or something?
Up at the Air Force Base in Central Nova.
That's
Name of it. It's Greenwood. And they have we got lucky, my wife and I dropped in, place was empty. The commander in charge noticed that I was looking at stuff and he basically told another guy to open up the restoration hangar and drag us through it. And so we were there for 2 hours. We basically expected to drop in and drop out. Anyway, he saw me going through the book stack. They have a whole bunch of leftover new used books or they were free or for donation. So I picked this up there and I'd never heard of it. And it's an outstanding history on the Battle of Midway.
absolutely. Yeah. I'd read some reviews later on. It came out like 2005. And just basically they got access to the Japanese records, which a lot of people hadn't. And it tells it quite well from both sides, both strategic and tactical. So like I was really unaware of some of the tactical things the Japanese fleet did and the Japanese carrier ops, stuff like that. Fantastic book. Really, really recommend it. So yeah, Jeff's getting back his copy tonight now. Let me find one more
Anyone
thing.
wants to borrow it.
Just make sure you tell him who's got it. Okay, this here I mentioned briefly. This here I mentioned briefly before, but we had the president of IPMS USA on the podcast, and he was nice enough. About a couple of weeks later, I got a box in the mail, and for each of the 4 podcast hosts, him and his wife were in Europe last year, and they were on a cruise and that, and they actually visited Omaha Beach, and they got a bag of sand, and that is sand from Omaha Beach. And then the other thing is a challenge coin from this year's Nats San Marcos. And it's just really, really neat, very high quality. I thought I'd bring that in to show that off as well. So you can check that out. Let's move on to yours. Dave. We'll do Dave's, we'll do the shuttle. All right. There's Dave's shuttle. All right, Dave, tell us about your beast.
It's the 40th anniversary of the space shuttle. It's a 172nd model kit from Revell, and that's all I can tell you about it because they didn't give you much information. It's I got the Columbia name on it. I forget the ones that were destroyed. Columbia and Challenger. And the rest of them are on retirement.
Second. Oh, all right, yeah. Let's go down now.
Next up is mine. So this is a Bronco model Panzer IV 744E. So this is it's an A-13 British tank captured. The Germans captured a bunch after Dunkirk, and they took a bunch of them and made them the support vehicles, armor support vehicles for a Flammpanzer unit. So a bunch of Flamingos, which are their Panzer II flamethrowers, and this had the 2-pounder on it, so it could provide overwatch. So 9 of them rolled in during Barbarossa, and a month later, absolutely no record of them exists. So they're all pretty much gone. But anyway, I like the subject. One of them had a trailer on it. That's a French Renault trailer for their UE, the little French version of the Bren carrier sort of thing, a little tractor they had, the little range schlepper. So that's a fuel container for one of the flamingos, and so that's the support tank. And then I made a diorama for it. I made basically a log road through a marsh in Russia right before that thing got destroyed, I'm sure. That was kind of cool. I used whatever that roofing foam, rigid foam, XPS foam, I think it's called. And then made the the grass. I used garden twine because I'm cheap like Cam. So I bought garden twine and then I cut it, unfurled it, and that's my marsh grass. So it came out pretty good. I got some woodland scenics water in it and other stuff. So that's that. It's, it's an exercise in making something gray look interesting, and I think it worked out. And then I said, well, I'm doing it now, might as well punish myself further. So this is a Hobby Boss, but it's a TriStar Reeboks. This is a Panzer 1A Munitionsschlepper. So it's an ammo tank. It doesn't have a turret. It's just got the big door, so you could really see the interior. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to make it. And then it's got, this is a support vehicle for Stugs. It's carrying the 75mm shells for Stugs that would roll with them early into the war. Another great kit, kind of fiddly. The tracks, surprisingly, for Panzer I and Hobby Boss TriStar were probably the best part of the kit. They just went together really nice. They didn't break. It was easy cleanup, wonderful. So again, just a modulated paint scheme to make something gray look nice and pretty. Thanks, Kevin. Next, we have
Actually, we'll start with the little chipmunk, please. Obviously, de Havilland Canada chipmunk in British civilian markings. The kit was gifted to me by Tim, who is not here. And the decals were gifted to me by Above and Below Graphics, who asked me to give them a run as they were new in their catalog. And one of the things I do when I work with custom decals, unless it's in an obvious place where it's going to go, such as the wing decals, is I'll scan the decal, cut it out and try it for fit. And the one that goes around the canopy was just about 4mm too narrow. So the sheet line would end up going across the clear part of the canopy as opposed to just below the framing. So I cut the decal lengthwise, laid it down, and from unused registration pieces, laid those in the middle, which is why the top of the green part looks a little rough, and finished it off. No weathering, because all the pictures I saw of that thing, they kept it in pristine condition. Not even exhaust stains or mud stains, nice and shiny, which was nice. Airfix 172. And Andrew from Above and Below Graphic was grateful for my help, because he was obviously not aware that the decal was too narrow to fit over top the canopy. And that was a P51K that I purchased off of the gentleman sitting over there, Ben, some time ago. No? Hey? Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. DK, and finished in Royal Australian markings, out of the box build, built with painted color gray on the bottom and AK acrylics on top. I changed my fitting process a little bit, we're really scientific when it comes to this. A dab of paint, and about 1 mil of floor polish, and about 1 mil of Mr. Leveling thinner, mix it all up, and if it's still too thick, a bit of this, a bit of that, what looks good, I shoot it. So if I ever write a recipe book for that, you'll have to do a lot of reading. But I was kind of pleased that the guys down in Australia liked the work. The blue on the tail is miles away, but you can't buy Royal Australian Air Force insignia blue, and I am not one for mixing things. And then the 747, please bear with me here. My wife is reminiscing. No, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, looks great.
Edie?
That's the Max Factory Dogram 1/72nd scale kit, which was a really nice little kit. Had a few issues, mainly with the gun fit and the big long seam down the whole length of the gun. But other than that, it was a really nice kit, nice detail. Some of the decals were little bit finicky, but compared to the kit that was the original kit that was out way back in the 80s and released over here as part of the Robotech Defenders line, it was light years beyond it. More expensive than the Bandai kit, but not by much. But I mean, compared to the one that's twice the size that's coming out, that is going to be well over $300.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much their version of a perfect grade, and the detail we saw on it, and the 10 crew members that come with it in a larger scale. It's definitely their version of a perfect grade.
Thanks, Pete.
Mr. Goodman. Internationally award-winning.
Thank you, sir. Hey guys. So this is the 1/72 scale VF4G Lightning from Macross. It's a plastic kit by Wave. It's basically it's supposed to be a Navy bird, but would also be it would be in the atmosphere, would be in space. Doesn't really pop up very much in the anime, so there's a little bit of interpretation there. So I really wanted to do an homage to the Sundowners, and I wanted to do the tan. The tan colors used a lot in Macross fighter liveries, and I just hadn't gotten around to it, so I thought it would look pretty sharp there. So I ended up cutting. I couldn't find any kind of usable Sundowner decal. For love nor money, I could not buy a Sundowner decal at the time of building this, and it turns out they weren't. They were a little bit. They're quite small. The tailplanes are quite small compared to a real F-14, which seems to be the most likely candidate. But a friend from the St. Catharines Club, he sent me a set of 48 scale Tomcat decals, but they were so old that I barely looked at them and they just shredded apart. So I ended up taking the instruction manual and scanning it and then shrinking it down and cutting masks, which I did twice because for some reason I painted the thing red and tried to go white over top, which rookie mistake. But this kit's all about this. Yeah, this kit's all about seconds, doing things twice. So it was a really nice kit. The whole thing comes apart even now. You can take the way that Wave engineered it. You can take the nacelles off, the wings off, the tailplanes, the canopy. They're quite ingenious, and there's a really neat example of it was like a slide molded canopy. So the two parts of the canopy are separate, and then the frame was a separate piece. I hadn't seen that before, so it was quite clever. So no canopy masking. However, I did manage to smash the tiny one and bought a second kit. So, and then I ended up, but was trying to get into the vacuum forming. So it was a great little practice piece. I ended up vacuum forming, making a 3D buck of the second one, kind of looking at it, making the buck, and then vacuum forming a suitable copy. And I gave it to a friend. So, it all worked out in the end. But yeah, thanks. I turned out really well. I was pretty happy with it.
Really well.
Thank you.
Best anime at Wonderfest.
Yes,
It's pretty good. Pretty good for really well.
Good. Feedback. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. Who's got the Osprey? It's you. Look at that, eh? Bringing something first show. Is it working now, Ed? Testing, 1, 2. Whippoorwill. There we go. All right, sorry about that. Just
Yeah.
don't push on the button.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like I was saying, there was a lack of detail in the back of the plane, so I threw a bunch of car parts, plane parts, starship parts, into the back of the plane to make what I felt was, because I mean you can barely see it anyway, so the fact that it doesn't necessarily match up 100%, I wasn't worried about, but it definitely makes it feel, more complete in my opinion. But yeah, I couldn't tell you what company built the kit or what paint colors I used because I mix my own paints. So yeah.
Sure. Cam and Abe.
Okay, so that, there is, my Russian artillery park. It includes a 152 millimeter gun and two 122 millimeter guns, a half-track truck, and two 10-ton trucks, and some figures, crew, etc. The bench seats in the back of the trucks are scratch built. They didn't come with them. Just some, plastic card. Pretty simple. The bases I made with circular discs from the dollar store. And then at work, somebody found some of these wooden, 1x2 sort of slats of wood, a whole box full of them in a laboratory that was being shut down and everything was being cleaned out. And they're like, hey, you do modeling stuff, you got to use these. And I'm like, yeah, I'll figure something out. So that's my little display stands now. And I might spruce them up a little bit more than they are now, or I might keep them as is. We'll see what happens. In any case, I'm really happy with how these all turned out. All of them have the trucks have a removable tarp from the back, so you can either have the tarp on or off. You can put figures in the back. You can put cargo in the back. And then the one towed gun, you could actually take it off tow and then spread the legs apart. What do you call that? Yeah, spread them apart and then actually deploy the gun for firing on the battlefield if you need to do that. The other two are just permanently in place on their bases. And that's that.
They're nice, and I did destroy them.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
I did kill them. Kevin, can you hear us, Kevin? Oh, you're talking, but we can't hear you.
No, hang on a second. Right. Can you turn it off? One more time, Kevin?
Wiggle it. Here's my speaker.
Tell us what you want to say in chat, Kevin, and then Frank will try to imitate your voice.
Well, no, it was right. Hey, can you unmute? See if we hear you? Hey, can you unmute?
He's getting there. Ed, can you unmute Ed, can you unmute so we can see if sound's working?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
5x5.
Okay, so I'll try again.
Yay!
Oh, wow. Okay. All I did is mute and unmute. Okay, so this is a model craft 148 scale Norden Norseman in a lake diorama. And I picked up the kit from Bappy at a model show, 2 kits. So 2 of them for 10 bucks with no decals. It's a pretty challenging kit. No interior detail, poor fit. The floats are all wrong. I figured that out after I built it. So I'm going to get some resin ones for the second kit when I build that. Has no interior detail. I built some passenger benches. The decals I nabbed from my spares box, and I painted it with Tamiya spray paints and some hand painted red. The diorama is the shore just uses dry foam and Sculpta-Mode on a plywood base. The deck is Everwood or Evergreen, rod and plank. Grass is model railroad grass and Vallejo grass, and the gravel's from Woodland Scenics. The resin water is from Michael's Craft Smart, and it's really easy to use. I'd really recommend it. The waves, you have to add waves though later, and that's from Woodland Scenic Water Ripples. And the jet ski and canoe are from some STL files that I found on the web, and then I downloaded them, resized them to 148 scale, and have them printed at the public library. The figures, the mechanics are from a Tamiya kit, and the 2 boys are actually my sons. One likes to canoe and one likes to jet ski, so I've stuck them in there, and they both have beards like their dad. And that's it.
That's awesome, Kevin. Thank you.
No problem.
Nice work with a crappy kit, but hey.
You know, the story behind that kit, there's a guy in the trunk club, right? Passed away.
Oh, I want to hear this. I can't hear you.
Okay, sorry. So the story behind this kit is there was a guy in one of the Toronto clubs, I think it was the Peel Scale Modelers, who passed away.
Yeah.
Family donated his entire collection to the club to sell and use for the club. So they got it, and then they cleaned out the guy's apartment. And it turns out the guy had like 2 or 3 kits in every box, but he had taken the decals out of every kit and put them in a file cabinet. When the family cleaned the place out, they tossed all the decals for like 1,200 kits a guy had in his collection.
Oh no.
So yeah, so that was actually, so I got that cheap, and I think I sold it for the same price I paid for it, like $5 or something, wasn't it? It was pretty cheap anyways, because there was no decals in it, but there's 2 kits in the box.
Yeah, the kits were a good deal. I'm gonna do a better job on the second one.
All right, sounds good. That's the story behind those kits.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks, Dave. So I think that's it. Yeah, we'll take a 10-minute biology break, and then we'll go judging and IPMS Nats. Hold on, everyone.
Lots of empty containers, pill bottles. I cleaned out my hobby room and reorganized the whole space. You gotta keep it working on with some little detail parts. You want to store them and box it.
Hold on, guys. Guys.
Next meeting is before they go, right? Yeah, Adam's already heading over there.
Yes, sir.
Let's try the bottom. I know.
So what?
It's green. So how do you do this? Yeah. I'll put it down and then I'll put it's two. Just over. Yeah. The big one, you just put a little bit, and oregano and park. Yeah, that's what's going in. I think what's different. I can't be done. Yeah. Where I wanted that field to be. So then I go here about water. Oh, that's the. Well, I don't know. I just. That's like being like about actually nailed to a wall. Yeah. Who knows? It may or may not go. I was like, I'm not using. No, there's yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. If I do, I'd be like, so very nice. Yeah. Are you interested in economic? Single or squad? No, want to go.
Here, national classes. There's a guy named Jimmy Flintstone who makes a figure kit and it includes both. A figure-rated animal. Jeez. I'm pretty sure you couldn't display it at an IPMS show.
Wrong show.
Yeah. Hypothetical. Sorry, how much is the category sponsorship? All right, guys, we're gonna get started.
Reason being is that that's
Herding cats.
I guess David and Harry left.
Yeah, they did last time. New. Nice try, Carrie. Nice try. You're not the first one to say that either. All right. I'm gonna turn the share back.
All right, we're back. I'd like to have, Gary come up and, talk to us. We have the mic somewhere. We'll have-
Yep, I got the mic. Ed, Kevin, can you hear us? Ed can hear us. Good stuff.
Yeah,
Yep, can hear you fine.
thank you very much. Okay, so a number of us went down to San Marcos, Texas, to the IPMS USA Nationals 2 weeks ago. Duncan, who is not here, myself, Jamie Lego from Ottawa, and Jerry Brennan from Toronto. We flew down out of Detroit. It didn't start off well. Our flight was delayed for 6 hours. Something broke on the airplane. I'm not sure why Delta, which Detroit is a hub for, didn't just switch aircraft, because we're looking out over the tarmac and there's like dozens of aircraft with Delta markings on them. No. Oh, there you go. I wish I had known that. Anyway, so San Marcos overall was a great show. It always is, regardless of the nationals. We always have a very good time. For me, first and foremost, it's always about the people, getting together with friends, having a good time, drinking a little too much beer, eating a little too much food. And then close second is the models themselves that are on the table, because if you really want to see some amazing skill and abilities when it comes to model building, regardless of genre, the IPMS USA Nats is probably the place to go. Wonderfest would probably be a comparator when it comes to science fiction for sure. But if you want to see everything and anything, just like as an example here on this table, that's the level of skill that you're seeing. One of the drawbacks of San Marcos in August is that it's really, really hot. We were hitting temperatures of anywhere from 42 to 45 degrees. So when you walked outside, it was like walking into an oven. So for us, that canceled some plans. We had plans on going to museums, doing a walkabout in Austin, Texas, which is about 40 minutes away. And that got canned because it was just simply too hot. There were heat warnings. They were telling people, stay inside, stay in air conditioning. So that was a drawback. I would say, I think it was mentioned that there was some controversy. The controversy centered around the judging, which apropos is the next topic. IPMS USA, as does IPMS Canada, follow more or less the same format of rules when it comes to judging. We use, or they use, and we use a first, second, third format. If you don't place in the top three, you're done. And similar to architecture, when we're marking drawings, for instance, I taught for 30 years here at Fanshawe in the architectural department. We don't look for the positives, we look for the negatives. We just assume that your model is an A+ to start off with. And then we start looking at it closely and we start finding the faults, if there are any. So it's kind of a negative. Marks start getting taken off. I use marks. It's not really marks. We just start looking at them and that it's cumulative. If we see a number of them, it gets eliminated. For some people, that's a negative, and I can totally get that because you can walk away not knowing why your model didn't place. But one of the things that we have to understand right off the bat is that at the IPMS USA Nationals, there was over, actually the number went up, it was over 3,100 models on the table of all genres. And so that's a lot of models to be judged on a Friday night between the hours of 7 o'clock and whenever you end. So that's a tough thing to do. And so just through process of elimination, you have to do it. So that was the one controversy, and it comes up every year after the Nationals, is why is it first, second, third? Why can't it be gold, silver, bronze, similar to AMPS, which is the Armor Model Preservation Society, where they judge every single model, and every single model is probably given a gold, silver, bronze, or honorable mention. The problem with the AMP system is twofold. It takes a long time. They literally start the moment the door opens, they start judging, and it goes all the way until just prior to the award ceremony. The second is that it is labor intensive. You have to have a lot of judges lined up to be judging these models through the days that the show runs. And I'm not sure that IPMS USA can do that. So on the Friday night we judged, I heard the number 300 judges. I'm not sure if that's an accurate number, but there were a lot of us. More than previous year. And so, yes, there were a lot of judges, but judging 10 models isn't how it works because you're in teams of 3 or 4. I started judging this year at IPMS USA Natch, so I was considered to be an OJT, a judge in training or on-the-job training, even though I've judged a number of years at various competitions here in Canada. And so I was linked to a team of 3 experienced judges. From that came the controversy of picking up the models, judges picking up the model, which drove some people crazy, myself included. Here in Canada, here in London, you never touch the model. The only people who should be judging the model are the head category people, and it's only to move them. And they should be wearing gloves. IPMS Canada never allows for you to touch the model for judging purposes. Sure. So there it is in all its glory. I feel sorry for the guy. Fortunately, his face is shielded.
That's the only reason I originally shared it. My face was shielded.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, his face is blotted out. And then my buddy Aaron Lance grabbed it and dropped it onto the IPMS USA page. Like I was positive, he was positive.
Well, he did. He more or less set off a thermonuclear device. Anyways, So there is absolutely no excuse for this as far as I'm concerned. First of all, it's a piece of armor and you're looking at the underside. Anyways, the second rule that was broken, there were two rules that were talked about in the judges meeting, of which a number of us, myself included, could not get in. I could not physically get in the room. There was probably 30 or 40 judges who couldn't get in the room because there were so many judges. But I got briefed on what was said by the team I joined, and there were two rules. And there's some irony here, or whatever. Not to pick up the models and not to use your cell phone as a flashlight. Interesting. So that picture encompasses everything they should not have done. Well, his claim is that he got called in late, that they wanted him to judge. He was having dinner with his family. I personally have a difficulty believing that, just because there were a large number of us already there. Anyways, so this stirred up the pot. It has forced IPMS USA to issue a letter saying that moving forward, there will be no more picking up of the models and that they will start enforcing what type of flashlight you use. Okay, so the problem with using your cell phone, how do most people use the cell phone when they've got the flashlight? With fingers on the edges. Oh. And it can slip out. Flashlights, yeah. Flashlights, you hold on to more like with your fist, with all the fingers. And the smart ones actually have a leash on it that goes around your wrist. Okay. That's a good question. Exactly. You just answered your own question. So in the vast okay, so the real problem is, you're right. In this room, the lighting is very good. But when they're 40 feet above you, and it's easy for us to say, well, you need to find a venue that's got better lighting. It just isn't there. Most of the venues that the IPMS USA uses is not intended for model shows. They're intended for weddings where they turn the lights out. Right? Or dim them down or whatever. Yes. Well, and that's the whole idea. The whole idea of a flashlight is not to have it on continually. The idea of the flashlight is to just highlight something that you see. It's a pointer. In fact, this year they handed out to judges, not all of them, because I didn't get one, was a pen that had a red, like a laser light on the laser pointer. All right, which was helpful, but I didn't have one, so I couldn't use it. Anyways, I wasn't a real judge. Actually, you know what? I just got there to the table too late. Where are all the pens? Anyway, doesn't matter. I have a laser pointer from my teaching days. I'm thinking the battery's dead. It doesn't matter. I don't use it. Anyways, so from that has come some moving forward. IPMS USA is moving forward with the rules, and they're changing their judging rules. That was the other thing, that the rules that they had written hadn't changed. Even though they're telling us not to pick up the models, it still says in their judging rules that you can pick up the model. So they're actually going through the process now of changing that. So there's a couple of things that I've taken away from this, and IPMS Canada was going through this process anyways. We were going through our model judging rules and updating them, is that there are some things that need to be updated. As an example, resin model. There's more of them. People are printing out their own models and building them and so on and so forth. Secondly is the idea of what is out of the box, which we used to call out of the box. So literally, you build it, you buy a kit, you build it, and the only things you can add are aftermarket decals and maybe seat belts. That's about it. Now what they're doing is they're saying you can't even do that. If it's not in the box, you can't use it. All right. Well, it's fair as long as everybody knows those rules.
Back to basics.
Back to basics. Well, it's okay. So the question is, how would you know? Well, it's in a category called back to basics. And in order for you to be in that category, you have to provide the instructions to the sheet, to the model itself. If the instruction sheets aren't there, then it's disqualified. It's not even looked at. Okay, well then the onus goes on who? The builder. If there's,
We fundamentally bought. We got rid of it.
Yeah.
Out of the box.
Yeah.
In the box. I did read that. Yeah, the spirit of it.
Yeah, it's like doing the old 80s monogram.
Where, you spend a lot of time and that's where you get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, before we get too technical in here, yes, okay. So I was asked to talk about San Marcos and my experience with the judging. I'm going to finish off before handing it back. I was part of a team that judged 2 aircraft categories, so I can't speak to anything about armor or science fiction or real space or figures. But one of the most common things that we found, so in one example, one category, there were 22 models. In the second category, there were 30 models. And of those 52 models, I can safely say that the #1 problem with at least half of those aircraft was alignment issues. And I'm not talking minor alignment issues. I'm talking significant alignment issues. Wings crooked, horizontal stabulators that are crooked, landing gear where one is obviously off, where 4 of us look at it and 4 of us all agree. There were a couple where I would not see an alignment issue. One of the other judges would see it, and the other 2 were hemming and hawing about it. Okay, so there you err on the side of the modeler saying they're aligned. Because if you can't see it, obviously, there's no alignment issue. But when all 4 of us see it, then there's an alignment issue. It depends on the severity of the alignment and how all the other models are looking. Yeah. Yeah. So essentially what you're doing with the IPMS USA system, which we follow here in Canada, is you're looking for the best of what's on the table at the time. So if there's a category with 5 models, let's take an example of this table. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 13 models on the table. If they all have issues, doesn't mean they're eliminated. You just now need to look at them more carefully and say, well, this one only has 1 issue. That one has 1 issue. This one has 3, and it goes on. So now it's down to 2. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you literally have to go, well, you know what? There's a little bit of silver, not true, little bit of silvering on the marking. Yeah, this one, the horizontal stab, the one looks higher than the other. Okay, well, what's worse? And so that's where you sit down with your fellow judges, and you decide, well, a little bit of silvering versus a little bit of misalignment. Yeah. So the advantage The advantage of the AMP system, the gold, silver, bronze, is you can say, well, you know what? Gold, gold. Or silver, silver. Done.
They even breaks down into categories. If you're
Mhm.
new, intermediate, master class, and if you're a master modeler, you don't get judged with the other models. You go into a different category, and that's
And if I just want to be a stick in the mud at this point, before we make all glory of amps, is I go at their national show, it's 700 models. At the National USA show, it's 3,100 models. And before the 3,100, the average was 2,700. So that's a lot of models. And people, I see it online with guys saying, well, you had 300 judges and there's 300. That's only 10 models a piece that you have to judge. Doesn't work out that way. Because I'm pretty sure Dave Girton doesn't want me judging his science fiction, and I'm pretty sure you don't want me judging this. Because you know what? I think it looks really cool, and you did a great job on it. I haven't got a clue what it is. It's just not my genre. Or the same with automobiles or whatever. It doesn't really matter what it is. So you have to develop teams for each of the classes. And so there's a number of classes. I did some rough numbers in I think I showed it on Facebook at one point in time, that you would have to have roughly 216 judges per day to do an AMP style judge at the IPMS USA Nat. And that's judging from 9 o'clock in the morning till 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
every kid's got to be looked at, right? Every kid's judged. Right? It's not
Yeah.
even and
I think it
amps-
only works.
but their system doesn't work that way.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It's good, but
It could work modified. But
that discussion. As part of the-
Well, and then there's the logistics of it as well. You have to set up a separate room with all of these judges because teams have like minimum of 3 judges. I saw the number being thrown out around, well, you only need 6 minutes per model. That's crazy. It's at least 15 minutes.
Well, that podcast about a month ago, it had a very good discussion with Keith Fraser from IPMS London, the judging hell of a long time. And also they had the president of AMP USA. They went through in very good detail the advantages and disadvantages of both systems. And I wish I could say to anyone I was seeing shooting their mouth off on Facebook on this topic, go listen to that first, because there was a lot of misinformation flying around. I really recommend that. I know that I thought I was pretty.
What percentage of the prints on the table, looking at the pictures in that, they all look, but what percentage would you say were easy?
Well, I mean, just looking at them, none. So you have to actually sit down or well, stand in our case and look at them close, like actually bend over and take a look at the alignment. Get fairly close to see if there's any silvering of the decal sheets or the decals, not the sheets, the decals themselves. That's where you start finding things. Looking in, like for instance, wings. Looking in here, seeing if there's any seams. I didn't touch. Oh, it's the most obvious. Yeah. Can I borrow that? Oh no, I'll use mine. It's heavier. Yeah. So what you're doing is you're looking for the obvious. So going back to IPMS, they're looking for construction. They're looking for the basics. Good construction, good finish. Once you start looking at them, yeah, when you start looking at them, it becomes pretty obvious pretty quickly. Yeah. Well, I mean, in case in point, in one of the categories, one of the senior judges got enamored with this F-16 because it had lots of ordnance on it. And he was going on about the fact that the modeler did extra work putting all of that ordnance on, and the ordnance looked really good. The real problem was is that the horizontal stabs on the back were significantly out of alignment. And by significant, I mean significant. Yeah. So again, as you're going through, okay, there's that problem. And as we're going through, we're finding models that are better. So it gets eliminated. But he kept coming back to it. No, he's not. And he had to be reminded of that 2 or 3 times. Hmm. I would like to say they do, but I wasn't at the judges meeting. Well, I was outside the judges meeting.
We have that. We'll talk. I laid
Yeah.
that out.
All right, so I'm going to pass this back to the guys. So any questions before I leave?
Can't hear anything.
So he's asking a question with regards to when you come to judging a World War II aircraft, is if the color is not correct. Okay, I'm going to tread carefully here, but technically the correct color does not come into play until the very end. So if you have 2 aircraft, 2 P-47 Thunderbolts, 56 fighter group, and the one was correctly used the olive drab, the other one had light fuchsia green or whatever. It would be at that point. So they were all perfect. Those were the 2 contenders, and those were the ones that were going to finish first. If everything was perfect, you would give it to the one that was correctly colored. Well, I'm not going down that road. Yeah,
Okay, it's a model show.
yeah.
And we're done. We have a chief judge. And you know, what the decisions, and that's what our rules say, the decisions read. Well, I'll show you. We're doing that.
We're gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, this
Guys?
is what the lighting looks like.
No, I found it actually pretty good. Yeah.
The light.
There was lots of light reaching the table. Was it perfect? No, but it's been better than some shows I've been.
Our lighting's pretty good here at the gym, all things considered. It's actually, for a massive gym, it's pretty good. It's also got acoustic baffles, so the noise isn't too bad. So, all right, you want to pull that up? So we called the meeting because for judging, we're going to need judges. It's not something to be afraid of, but with the controversy that shows up, I went through our, I understanding that our last show was 2018, I went through our rules, the whole contest rules, to bring them up to today's standards. And what did I use? I used IPMS Canada, I used Torcan, Heritage Con, and CapCon. And there's a lot of similarities and in our own stuff. I didn't change a lot from that, but I made it pretty standard. One of the big things, of course, is eligibility. I was at CapCon, guy showed up with Polish Navy ships from World War II made out of paper, and he was sent away, and he got very upset. And he was a member of our model club, and it was like, dude, it's paper. IPMS, sorry, right? You know, you want to put them on display because they look fabulous. So that's, yeah. And so another example would be, if those of you at Heritage Con can recall die-cast cars, we don't do die-cast. We removed that one this year from our category. So that's just the eligibility stuff. It's on the webpage. We'll make sure it's finalized. Yeah. No, resin resin won't be an issue. Resin is a plastic. Yeah, yeah, because if you look at the definition of what the word plastic means, it falls under that category. Yeah. Yeah, petroleum-based product. Yeah, yeah. No, that's fine. It's predominantly plastic. Yeah. I'm sorry? Oh, I like the 148 scale? That's fine. I wouldn't have an issue with that because it comes as, to me, a kit, and it's still predominantly plastic.
Where it comes down to it is the question of head judge is gonna be final. Oh, yeah, that's you. So let's not get into the weeds, guys. Okay?
Yeah, so let's just go down to judging. We've tried to take care of stuff like oversized entries and things like that. If you'll notice, scroll back up, we talked about 3D printing, so that's okay. But judging's what we're here for. So basically, yeah, you can see we addressed 3D printed, and then what's scratch built, because that's been some controversy, dioramas, things under glass. So oversize is pretty significant because the largest entry, the most you can bring in is half a table. So unless you're bringing in a full Stalingrad one, we would accommodate that with its own space, but I'm not a. No, Godzilla would be okay.
You know what? It's the standard thing if you're not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, scratch. We'll go back up. You remember where it was? No, back. So scratch built right there, Stuart, you missed it, right with 3D, go down. Stop. So, and you didn't again. So there you go, scratch built, fully 3D printed models may be entered into scratch built categories only if the entire 3D printed model was entirely and solely designed, printed and assembled by the entrant. So that's a chief judge may ask for proof, right? 3D models downloaded from public sites and then have their designs tweaked are not eligible for scratch built. So that's how we cover that. That's the big thing that everyone talked about was 3D printed. Yeah. Might as well keep going down because it's already 8:30. Half a display area. 8 feet, I think.
No, 65.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Better be that.
Okay.
2.5 by 3.
All right. So back up to judging. So for judging. Yeah, it's okay. There we go. So as you can see here, models will be judged for skill in construction, finish, realism, where applicable, scope of effort and accuracy where applicable. This is what Carrie was alluding to, right? It's applicable at a point. Additional criteria are considered for special categories like dioramas, collections, conversions. Models are judged as three-dimensional objects and are examined in all aspects. Accordingly, where necessary, entries will be handled carefully by judges, both for proper table placement and for judging as required. Now, we included that, but there's still no touching. It's moving it around if we have to move it to a different category. I'll straighten, that's why it's still a draft. I'll straighten that wording up. No reference materials may be placed on the tables, but should be available upon request. Because some people will take giant books with their kit. No. You wanted me to see it, we'll do it afterwards. But it's part of that. So judging criteria is, just scroll a little bit, is basically the IPMS sort of standard. This is how a judge model does it. First is on the workmanship. You physically evaluate the model. Is it assembled and finished properly? Is it a good build? Gates, seam lines, right? Sands marks, stuff like that. So assembly criteria includes fits, seams, joint treatment, parts alignment, removal of flash, decals, uniformity of glot mass finish, unless, for example, an uneven finish is intended to represent weathering. Right, we'll take that into account. Unpainted parts, application of metal skin, fabric finishes. So the big thing is workmanship, and then we go to construction techniques. Because everyone's worried about stuff like, you know, the base. I've judged, right? Bases don't count. My Panzer 744, if I put that into tanks, you're only looking at the tank, period. Exactly. Yes. Yeah, like Matchbox. Yeah. Absolutely. It's the kit in its entirety. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. So we're with the understanding that the judges that are judging that should have some knowledge in that. So that would be an acceptable part of the criteria. If we know that all the big figures are going to be magnetized now because that's the big trend, then that's going to be an, you know, an acceptable part of it. Absolutely. Yeah. Because as a, yeah, because the comments are there for the comments. You may think the comments are there to ooh and ah the people visiting. That's true, but they're also there for the judges. Because one thing I want to look like it, if I'm going to say that that is tank number 122 of this unit, blah, 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 right? You know, that's, I may have to get to that point of the judging. But the first thing we deal with is workmanship, construction. Then we get into authenticity and accuracy. Complexity, right? That only starts to come into play when, like Carrie said, when we've got apples and we're starting to judge apples, that's when the individual apples. IPMS. That's how they're doing it. Like weathering. Weathering's a big thing. Weathering's the last thing we look at when we're judging a model. Yep.
I haven't finished the armor box yet, but if I have small situation,
Yeah.
and I can see that my third basket that be part of there,
yeah,
the other one doesn't, I can say this one is more complex. I just know that.
You're allowed to. Yeah.
But I can't say, oh, they're both German Jack. I don't know which is right.
But you're already judging them at a point where you're looking at these comparisons. So you're there. Well, this is the IPMS. This is the IPMS way, if we will. And so, because I understand, listen, we just announced we were starting and I got emails bitching about judging, right? So, no, but I'm just saying like it already starts, right? So, okay. And I've judged enough, and I think others who've judged knows when it comes to workmanship, construction, right, and accuracy, we've pretty much boiled it down to the one or two. Because you may have 30, like Nats is one thing. That's the best kits in the country. I mean, but you'd be surprised who thinks they can put something into a national competition. Because there are, you know, when I did Heritage Con for cars, half the cars were like, no, like wheels were looking weird, right? And I'm telling you, I'm never using bare foil metal on a car because most of them, it looked like crap, right? And that was part of the issue. And I mean, half the cars had a massive thumbprint, either on the hood, the trunk, or on the roof, right? That's, but
the hard part when you get to
yeah. But if we have 4 cars and all 4 of them have thumbprints, well, okay, now.
Again, that's the easy part.
Yeah.
When you get down to high level.
So the big thing here is, the big thing we're looking at here is, and I'm looking for time too, but reasons entries may not be judged is always the big one. We just have to wait, it'll get there. So entry may not be judged for any of the reasons listed. Again, it's a guideline. We have a head judge. We've also got group judges. So if it's in the incorrect category, it may not be judged. Normally, right, when people enter, we have a vetting process. It does happen, right? And no issue. Like I listen, out of the box at Capcom, half the problems was out of the box because I knew that kit didn't come with camo netting. So it's out, you know, we got to move it into another category, right? And sometimes people are just fishing because, well, there's not a lot of out of the box. So there's only 3 of them. I'm going to get a trophy or I'm going to get an award. So, but that's what we've got Adam for is to make sure that we're doing that correctly. He's the popular guy for the day.
head judge. If you have a situation with someone pitching, I don't have the right to say you're wrong. People throw them out.
And you know that I'm still loving.
And we've,
Yeah.
we've had, I've seen shows. I've had, no, I've seen shows where people, and I don't get it. It's like, it's like everyone had a family estate in the will speak. People go. lose their faith. And ridiculous, so we literally do. If someone's gonna misbehave, then we will ask them to leave. Like, it's only, in the end, it's a hobby.
Yeah, it's just a model show.
It's
This
a
is,
sheet metal.
yeah.
Like,
this is not Nobel. Yeah.
we're gonna have you turf them out, Larry. You're gonna be, all are welcome. You're gonna be Bobby the Brain Park too.
So we have some reasons to remove, such as, right, and little things like if you don't put down, you're explicitly entering into a theme award. We don't have a theme award this year. But if you don't put it in, right, you'll be removed. We did one thing about rules of decency. Apparently, one of the shows had quite a few interesting figures show up. And, you know, doing an Abrams tank with a couple of Playboy cover magazines, like in the turret of the tank, that's fine. But I guess, as Glenn said, graphic sex between a horned nymphette and a goat was like, no, we're not, it ain't happening. Exactly. And then about, and then entry forms, right? Because you got to enter your, you got to enter your models. So we just put that in there. For judges, we put some rules down. We'll have this all posted. At the end of the day, you know, I spent quite a bit of time watching Carrie go, like, and that's the way judging goes. You know, at Heritage Con, it was very easy. Head judge said, here, we got over 1,000 models. I don't have enough judges. Go to your categories, find the best 5. Each of you find your best 5 and then fight it out amongst the 3 of you judging. That's what we did. It worked out perfect because the cars we judged, like when I was done looking at cars, I had 5 cars. The other 2 had 5 cars. They were the same 5 cars because we know what we're looking for. And we just cut it down real quick, right? Because you start with the negative. Which ones look okay? Which ones have obvious problems? Those are done, all right? It gets hard when you've got really good kits. That's why I never judge airplanes. A lot of good airplane people out there, and I don't know enough. I'll never do planes. Yeah.
There's this fabulous area where all of them.
But there's still some subjectivity to this, right? Like Carrie said. Yeah, but. Yeah, and at the end of the day, we have head judges for each section. And then if there's a problem, we have a chief judge. And basically you entered into a contract. You're going to abide by the rules, period. Otherwise you're out. It's that simple. Somebody else can get gold if you're going to whine that much about it. And I have seen people lose their shit at these shows and I don't understand it. Right? Like, I mean, come here, I'll give you a hug. So being a judge, we have our chief judge. He's been selected. He'll be responsible for head judges judging. We'll do the briefing. The big thing is splitting. We saw this at Heritage Con. I don't know if that happened at Nats at all, but probably. And that just comes to the point where there's at Torcan, there were just too many modern aircraft. So they ended up splitting it into US NATO and they did USS and Warsaw Town. Yeah. Yep.
All of a sudden you see 28,000.
Well, like the F4 Phantom, the Tamiya Phantom. Yeah, we are prepared to do, yeah, see you, Cam. Email me and we'll do that thing, that voodoo, okay? Well, yeah, and that's why he's here for splits. We're prepared for splits, but I tried to be very comprehensive with our categories. And again, I based it on Heritage Con, Torcan, and CapCon. So judges will have them selected. It is fun. It sounds onerous. We don't have, listen, I talk to Merkins. I'm like, Dave, I'm on a lot of groups. I go chatting with, especially guys down south. They have shitstorms. I had buddies who came to Heritage Con, went back to the States, and they're going on the checkers going, I don't know why you guys don't do it like in Canada. If we were at that show in Hamilton, And it was seamless, and they judged, and they thought, we don't have that, you make fun of the whole, we're Canadians, we're nice. I don't know if their agenda down south, but we're not inheriting their problems. It seems to be, we're prepared for the worst, but we're not as irrational, right? I mean, I had a guy screaming at me about car divisions and whatnot, so I said, okay, we're in a car area of the country. I'll make sure we have cars covered properly. And I did cover the way that the Windsor guys kind of do it and Chatham Kent. So I tried to break the cars down into something reasonable because there was some issue. I got rid of die cast because I just didn't think that Adam needed the heartache and headaches of dealing with die cast. And so we've removed that this time around. And we increased anime, Gundam, and figure stuff because that's the way the hobby is trending towards. So we've made more categories, and we're going to see how that goes this year, right? So I'm going to hopefully Peter's going to be involved in that. If he's entered and he's not judging, at least we've got guidance from him, and from the other guys that are doing Gundam. Yeah. I can't remember. We have a lot. They're all on the page. Yeah. It's not unreasonable, but it follows the other big shows, basically. Yeah. And really, the big thing is just to try to cut out any of the nebulousness. At the end of the day, head judge, chief judge is going to make the decisions. But being a judge, is it subjective? Absolutely. But what are we looking for? IPMS's big thing is construction. I had guys, they said, you know what? You don't have to weather a model at all. As long as you build it perfectly, your decals go on nice and clean, you get a good clear coat, and you bring it onto the table, you could win first place. Other guys could put photo etch and weathering and stuff like that. Yeah.
Everybody within this, others were part of the could read this document. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll have it out in an email blast by the weekend. Because I've already got all the feedback and most of it's incorporated. I will reiterate that we don't touch. And if any touching needs to be done, it's with gloves and under the direction of the chief judge or head judge. Yes, yes. Listen, guys, I judged with BLAP and a shipping container won. A shipping container. Miscellaneous categories. Just to give you an example. A C container won. It was perfect. There were no gates. Yep. So, and we agree like that. There was no doubt. It was the best made model. It was a perfect representation of a miniature sea container. You should have seen the reaction when it showed up on the big display board. People were looking at us, and Dave and I were like, nope. I'll argue this. It's the best kit. You can laugh, but go look at the other ones.
Especially some of the old school people, they think, oh, especially when Vesta shows them. People think, oh, it always should be an airplane or a tank. Well, no, it's what they thought was the best in show. And this year at NAC, armor, scratch built, but it was flawless. It looked absolutely perfect. And that's where it comes down to. You got to leave your biases. When you're judging, you have to leave your biases.
Yeah. So we'll have that posted. Yeah, the expectation is the club members will judge. We're the modelers. We're the people we know, right? And we all have our expertise. Like I make armor models. I never judge armor. I usually do sci-fi, dioramas, and cars, and figures. Depends on how many judges we have. There's been shows where all of a sudden it's like we don't have enough. But the point being is it is a lot of fun. You get your quiet time in the show. You get to see some fantastic models. I've never been one to use a flashlight. I've seen guys with dental mirrors. Sure, whatever boats their crank. But the tables are usually nice and high. We can see the stuff pretty clearly. The lighting is not horrific. Granted, we're spoiled here. But it does come down to subjectivity. But that's why there's 3 judges, not 1. Because at least we're getting consensus, which is how a lot of what we do in this country is developed. It's all based on consensus. I'm going to pick what I think is the best based on, and I'm giving my criteria. You got to look at build. How is it built? Did they build it properly? right? Do I have big globs of cement on it, right? I left my skin on a turret of a tank. That chunk of skin, I couldn't get it off. Now it became a huge bullet mark, right? I made a shell smack into the side of it just so that I could hide my flaw, right? Well, it's gone now, but that's something you'd look at, right? Like the old thumbprint on the hood of a car, or when you see those completely fogged in cockpits for an aircraft. Well, if it's fogged in, I think Blob, we had a group set where there was a bunch of cars and half the cars, the windshields had globs of glue on it. So we're like, well, okay, they're not even being considered. Let's move to the next one. Right?
Alan, the one extra thing we do have this year, past, we always close off the contact area. But the way the design is, we're trying it a little bit different, the way National did. Or I'm not National, sorry, Heritage Con, where the area will be open. So one thing to keep in mind is we're gonna have to keep an eye for people, the builders. You know, we don't want the builders hanging around while we're judging their kit. Well, no, then you politely tell them to.
There are guys that'll hang around.
But again, if something like that is bothering you, tell us.
Yeah.
Tell the head judge.
Because, listen, Torcan closed the room and we still had problems with people coming in during the judgment. The problem we now have is how do you have people up? Yeah. Volunteer.
Thanks, Gary.
Frank, you're losing your audience.
All right, guys, just so you know, last but not least, this is the kit that won Best in Show. And that
Wow.
entirely scratch built.
Remember sponsorship, vendor tables.
Okay.
Isn't that beautiful?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, no, you're taking it for a review.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely, you're taking it.
Holy
All right,
cow.
thanks, guys. Thanks for coming out. Thanks, Ed. Thanks, everyone else.
Great meeting.
All right, good to see you guys. Kevin, Ed, bye.
Bye.